2007's An American Crime contains some of the most horrific abuse ever seen on screen, and it's made all the more disturbing due to being based on a true story. Directed by Tommy O'Haver and starring Elliot Page and Catherine Keener, An American Crime tells the story of Sylvia Likens, Page, an Indianapolis teen who finds herself in the care of a family friend, Gertrude Banisewski, Keener. However, shortly after arriving in the Banisewski home, Sylvia finds herself subjected to a campaign of brutal torture at the hands of Gertrude's children, and many local neighborhood kids. An American Crime is nothing short of disturbing. What's even more disturbing, however, is the true crime on which it's based. It would be unfair to say that An American Crime pulled no punches in its depiction of the abuse and murder of the real Sylvia Likens, because in reality it pulled several. The true story behind An American Crime is even more harrowing than the adaptation, as there were multiple aspects of the abuse the real Gertrude Banisewski inflicted on the young girl in her care that could never be shown on screen. An American Crime is based on the murder of Sylvia Likens. The 1965 murder is one of the most shocking cases of abuse in American history. Gertrude and Sylvia in An American Crime. An American Crime is an incredibly difficult movie to watch and, unfortunately, the true story is just as harrowing, if not more so. Both Sylvia Likens and Gertrude Banisewski are real, and the harrowing and utterly disturbing events shown in An American Crime actually happened. It's a relatively direct adaptation, with much of the story of An American Crime was crafted from transcripts and court documents of the extensive trial of Banisewski. The 2007 true crime movie didn't embellish or exaggerate any details. If anything, An American Crime toned a lot of what happened to Sylvia Likens down. Much of the torture inflicted on her by Gertrude Banisewski simply couldn't be shown on screen if director Tommy O'Haver's film had any hope of being distributed. As it stands, An American Crime didn't see a theatrical release, though whether this was due to the content is unknown, and it was only when the Showtime network chose to air the film that it made it to screens in 2008. Just like An American Crime showed, Sylvia Likens entered the care of Gertrude Banisewski in July of 1965. It wasn't long before the horrific abuse started, and just like in An American Crime, it was initially due to late payment from Lester Likens, played in the movie by Nick Cece. An American Crime was also accurate in showing the role that Banisewski's children played in the abuse. By October the same year, Sylvia Likens had passed away. How did the real Sylvia Likens died? Over 150 injuries were discovered in the autopsy. Sylvia at the fair at the end of An American Crime. As a horror movie based on real events, An American Crime portrayed the moment of Sylvia Likens' death relatively accurately when comparing details from the actual case. Much like Elliot Page's character in An American Crime, the real Sylvia Likens died from the cumulative effect of her many injuries and severe malnutrition. However, there were some details changed about the final moments of Sylvia Likens' life in the 2007 movie. Specifically, the real Paula Banisewski, played by Ari Grainer, never tried to help Sylvia Likens escape from the basement. Overall, Paula is made out to be a much more sympathetic character in An American Crime than her real-life counterpart. While the real Paula eventually expressed a great deal of remorse, there's little evidence that she ever tried to stop the abuse Sylvia Likens experienced, and didn't try to help her escape on the night she died. Sylvia Likens passed away on October 25, 1965. When police found her body after Gertrude Banisewski called the police, she had been posthumously given a bath and dressed. Banisewski and her children gave police a variety of pre-rehearsed excuses and alternative explanations for how Likens died, but none of these could explain away the incredibly clear signs of abuse and mistreatment. In the end, Jenny was escorted from the Banisewski household by police after she whispered to one of the officers that she could tell them the entire truth if they helped her escape. It was Jenny's testimony that ultimately led to the criminal trial where the harrowing truth about the abuse that inspired An American Crime became public knowledge. The autopsy of the real Sylvia Likens revealed that she had over 150 separate wounds. These included cuts and lacerations, burns, extensive bruises, and damage to both her muscles and nerves that it's unlikely would have ever healed had she survived. Incredibly disturbingly, her reproductive organs had swollen shut, her fingernails had all been peeled back, and Likens had bitten through her own lips to the point that her teeth were permanently visible. The final cause of death of the real Sylvia Likens was revealed to be brain damage from a severe blow to her right temple, likely from Gertrude Banisewski herself. Much like in An American Time, Sylvia Likens had tried to make an escape attempt on the day of her death, though collapsed due to exhaustion. According to court documents, Gertrude had punished her by stamping on her head. This is presumed to be the injury that ultimately took Sylvia Likens' life. Why the abuse that inspired An American Crime went on so long? There were plenty of opportunities for someone to intervene. Sylvia and Paula in An American Crime. The treatment Sylvia Likens endured between July and October of 1965 was nothing short of horrific. What makes it even more shocking is that Gertrude Banisewski managed to rope in so many accomplices, such as her own children and local neighborhood children like Richard Dean Hobbs, and yet the treatment continued for months. This has led to many questions, both from the general public at the time and viewers of the true crime film adaptation An American Crime decades later, over why nobody noticed what was happening. There are several reasons why nobody knew what was happening to Sylvia Likens until it was too late. It's known that Sylvia and Jenny Likens didn't act on opportunities to inform other adults at school or church, as they believed it would make the abuse worse. They had no faith that the police or other authorities would help them, either.